growing and growing and growing, and then because I went back to old videos and I'm like, who the hell was that? It was literally like my same response, like,
Yeah, with your bushy beard, we couldn't see your chin, your neck. It's like,
no, but dude, like, literally, like when I shaved, I got up the next day, I'm like, who the hell is that? I didn't recognize myself. Kind of like the same when I went back and like watched an old BitChute video. It's like, who the hell is that? Oh, I did have a freaking very massive beard. It
yeah,
was, it
I
was.
figured you knew it, so I never said anything. But after you trimmed it up a bit, I was like, he has a jawline and a chin, son of a bitch. What do you
Oh
mean?
my God, other identifying markers and everything. And now we all wear masks.
Oh.
Basically. I also hit the live thing like a minute or so ago. I just figured we'd ease into it and everything. But hey guys, what's going on? This is a daily show with Moira and Memes. How we all doing? I see you there, Wookie. Welcome, Bone. Thank you for joining here.
You might
Huh?
want to talk softer, though.
Oh my.
There you go, like that, because your mic is very sensitive, and it's picking up quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That should okay. Oh geez. Well, we're obviously off to a great start. Okay, disable
Well,
audio
no,
processing is on.
it was a sound check. I was just letting you know.
Oh, okay. No. It's my input was all the way up. That's the thing with like a Mac and everything. I have to disable the audio processing, or else usually since I'm so loud, it quiets me down. So when I actually am not excited and quiet, I gotta sound like I'm whispering.
Everybody
It sounds
says you
like
sound great now.
right. Oh, why? Thank you. I'm glad we've minimized the ear bleeding right now. That is obviously my
I
goal.
felt like I was trying to figure out which stop on the subway I was supposed to take. It was a little.
Oh, are you referring to an actual subway stop or
I've
just
been
my
on
kind of?
subway before. Hey Joe, how are you?
But hail Joe, one of my patrons, Joe Franco there, guys, along with Dave M as well. They help bring these broadcasts and this lazy YouTuber that needs to get his butt in gear, seeing as we're only 60 days from an election, and I like to always seem to try to talk a good game. Now I should probably actually like I don't know, do content when it's important and everything. I mean, just what a novel idea and everything. But yes, so as many things are going on as the country is literally burning agriculturally, privately in cases as well. People are losing their
Emotionally,
lives.
economically.
People are literally going nutty bananas. I mean, they've been locked up for months and everything. Even at just my standard job, it's like at one point when it was kind of bad, I guess everybody was wearing masks and everything, and then they pretty much stopped doing it because it's like, well, it's a gigantic warehouse with like 60 something foot ceilings and everything, and it's like as long as everyone's not crammed up against each other, I guess it's fine.
Right.
But
Plus, the CDC can't decide what the hell's going on. Like, it's this one day, it's this the next week. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
that was one of the things that really bothered me. Just literally straight up when
I
like our
don't know what
government.
the hell they're doing. I'm not taking instructions from them. I'm just going to use my own common sense. I don't like being up close to a lot of people anyway, so I'm just going to stick with that. Maybe remember to wash my hands just a little bit more, and just fucking handle it myself.
Because well, right there was one of the things I noticed. Because right as this was starting to kick off, I remember I was down in Florida visiting the old man, and literally 12 hours before the governor of Florida declared a state of emergency, I was out at the bars with one of my old roommates, and we were grabbing some beers, and I had stopped drinking because I needed to drive a wee bit back to the old man's house in a rental, and a young lady had come around representing Corona, and they were doing a free Corona promotion. I'm like, I'm done drinking for the evening, but are you serious? She's like, yeah. I'm like, can I
It's
take a
terrible,
picture?
but it is kind of funny.
No. But the sheer irony was, I'm like, can I take a picture of your bucket? And she let me take a picture of her bucket that said Corona on it, and I've used it for I think a screenshot of one of my videos at one point because that happened. 12 hours later, the governor of Florida declared a state of emergency. That happened, and where that actually came from is I got back on the plane and just going through the airport during this time. I'll be straight up. I don't think I've ever seen that many people wash their hands after using the restroom, at least in the men's room. I can literally count on one hand the amount of folks that I saw not actually wash their hands.
right? Yeah. So basically, all it did was try to remind us what we were taught as kids. You
No,
know, respect
no,
people's personal space, wash your hands a little more, cover your face when you cough. Normal
yeah,
stuff we were supposed to have taught when we were 6.
we were taught these things because I was going to say I was taught those same things growing up as well. Maybe they've stopped teaching them. I kind of
People
think
forgot. I guess people just it didn't sound so scary anymore. And to be honest, this God, the whole can of worms of this stuff. Like,
uh,
I think it's interesting. Like, I haven't heard a whole lot about anyone dying of cancer. A whole lot of people dying of heart disease, car accidents. I think it all seems to just be COVID now. I'm like, wow, the disease has magically wiped out all the other diseases. It's amazing.
it's the sad thing there, and this is I think more telling of the system than anything else. Is I'm pretty sure if an individual, if listing the reason of their loss of life is non-COVID related, they get $39,000 less.
That's exactly.
This is the thing. It's like if you're going to drop an incentive where if your facility and somebody loses their life at your facility and it is COVID related, you put that on there and you get an extra almost 40 grand. I mean,
Yeah,
what do you
that's
think?
absolute fraud because a death certificate is an official piece of paper. So that is absolute fraud. They're committing.
It's I mean, wasn't there that one instance they had to go back and change where somebody literally died in a motorcycle crash and they happened to test
Had to go back
positive?
and change it.
It,
On Creepy Little Book, you know Tina?
mm,
I think it's her sister. I think she went in because she was having some pneumonia issues or some
mm,
lung issues or something. But it wasn't COVID. It was just she was sick,
right.
and they rushed to go put her on a ventilator.
Well, I mean, ventilator is a treatment basically if you have severe pneumonia. And again, I'm not a doctor or medical
But they were treating
professional.
her like COVID, and like her lung, she was just sick. She didn't need a ventilator. Like she had her own oxygen and this and that, but they decided to put her on a ventilator
Did,
anyway.
did she have insurance?
I don't know. I didn't ask.
Okay. The only reason I
I
said
don't
that,
know if it matters because they're still getting the money from this fund.
well, and again, I think this goes back to the insurance and kind of the system itself because I'm wondering, and again, I have no information whether or not this would be the case. I don't know
Yeah,
the
it's tricky with
specifics at
things like
all.
this because of HIPAA and things like that. It's very hard to get certain information.
I- If they had not put her on a ventilator, would they have been able to bill as much money?
Probably not. Because I think she
And
was having issues, but she wasn't COVID. But they started treating her like she was COVID. And of course, it's hard to go, back there with them and help them or try to fend them off. Like, hey, no, don't do this. When
well, I mean, you're around a bunch of doctors. You're not a medical professional. Somebody's saying we need to do this to help you.
You would know your sister better than the doctors, and know her history better than them.
Hmm.
So,
This is where a lot of this comes in, and this is the part that just completely baffles me because this stuff is still going on. Where what, like 6 months or so, like one of the old gentlemen I used to help out at his bar slash nightclub, he's like, the governor of Massachusetts asked us 6 months ago to close for 6 weeks to help flatten the curve. It's 6 months later right now, and we still can't open. And that, I mean, that just breaks my heart and everything, just because it's like, this is a time when leadership actually makes a difference, where it's just, you need a leader that's just not dividing people and maybe talking smack or anything. And I mean, even if you were,
it's multiple people. It's,
it,
it's multiple because each state has a governor that can decide on whether or not what actions they take. So
right,
just like
right.
one person is silliness.
Oh, no,
Each has multiple people who have been a party to this fiasco.
Well, I mean, technically, I mean,
Governors have been a party to
that's,
this fiasco.
well, that's the governors run the individual states. It's up to them. What I'm talking about is just, again, in my opinion, and what I've heard from other folks that I kind of like know and trust on this, it's like, had we come out and said, listen, a plague is upon our shores. This will suck. What we are going to do is we're going to more or less shut down almost everything in the country for 6 weeks. It could be 2 months. We're going to have the bare bones necessary functioning of our society intact. And in order to help compensate folks over these next couple months, we're going to cut everyone a check for $30,000 to stay home, or if you're working.
down.
Well, that's what we did.
Not
Literally, the
Was
the
it business owners?
no. President Trump, probably about four or so months ago, signed happily in an up to $6.2 trillion stimulus. People, if you're wondering why Wall Street is the way it is, I am not a financial advisor, but $6 trillion is a lot of money. And basically, if you
Everybody
divide,
actually got 1,200.
well, right. No, the people ask questions because that was a direct stimulus, but there were also ancillary expenses for like the airline industry, this, that, and the other thing to help a lot of businesses continue
That's what I
on.
was asking if that 30,000 you're talking about moving to businesses.
Right. Well, there was also a gentleman, I think I got like $5 million and bought a Lamborghini, and he was just blatantly committing fraud. I believe it was from Florida. I could be
Oh yeah, I heard about
incorrect.
that.
Yeah. Had he bought an X5 BMW, he probably wouldn't have gotten caught as quick. But that's the thing. People also, well, you're going down there in a Gallardo or fucking Diablo or something like that. People are going to take notice of that. But if you take $6.2 trillion, you divide that by 210 million adult Americans, it comes out to just shy of 30 grand. It's like $29,520 per person. That is the amount of money we spent within that bill. My thing is, you shut down the country for like a month and a half, 2 months. You eradicate the freaking virus. We open back up, and we could go to the beach.
Eradicate a virus for one, because otherwise we'd be virus free. Because we've never eradicated a virus. We've either calmed it down, found a way to treat it, or somehow ended up substituting it for something else. Because there's been stories of like some of the medical campaigns that have gone on in the country. Like if you look at the wording, like say with polio, for instance, they say they've eradicated wild polio, but there are still cases of polio, which indicates it's not wild, for instance.
That's fair.
It up and created something else, or they just calmed it down. But we've not eradicated an actual disease. We still have the bubonic plague occasionally. We've not eradicated jack shit. The last time they made any really impressive medical advancement was antibiotics. That was the last time that anything was earth shaking. Really, at this point, we've really not done much more.
Oh,
So
well, I mean,
that in 6 weeks of shutting down everything, like, oh, virus is magically gone now. No. And the fact that Biden or his campaign promised that the virus would be eradicated if he's elected is the most outrageous claim I've ever heard. There's no fucking way. Like, if you could have done that, why is cancer still here? You know? Fuck that. Don't make promises like that. That's outrageous.
well, that to be fair is accurate. Was I using verbose political speak? Yes, I was, to communicate the point. I will touch back that we have been known to eradicate different species of life. That has happened in different forms and everything. We have been successful at that. As far as the virus, will there always end up being some cases or something? That's totally fair. But fundamentally, as far as a major factor within our daily lives, could we have more or less eradicated a vast majority of this and more or less been open with maybe very minor restrictions a lot earlier? In my opinion, yes.
Absolutely. We could have just, basically stuck to try to, well, kind of like what Oklahoma did, really. I mean, we never, like, Walmart closed at 8:30, which is weird because I guess they think the virus comes out after 8:30. I don't know. Anyway, but
I think it's logistic related.
but there was no like mandate to walk down the street wearing a mask. There's stores that could choose that as their policy, and they could say, "Hey, could you wear this?" And you either go to the store or you don't. Like, you just pick a different store if you don't want to. Like, whatever. Like, personally, I didn't care because that's just less a camera can see of my face. Because me going to go buy a loaf of bread is nobody's goddamn business. So it's fine with that. And I was only going to be in the store for a few minutes. I'm not setting up shop in there, But either way, like, people on both sides have really sometimes not helped. Because I mean, we've seen embarrassing video of people like at a shoe store throwing shoes at the store clerk over a mask. It's like, really, really, you had to do that? That's no, no. That's totally unnecessary.
And that's the thing that really bothers me, just because, and that's one of the reasons why. And this is one of the things. Even though I did vote for President Trump this previous election, I just can't support this time around, just because the sheer fact of he is divisive. He has accelerated a lot of things. It seems like the acceleration is he calling out things that from time to time do seem to be yes, but it's the sheer fact that I actually agree with Donald Trump, that I'd like to have somebody like Donald Trump, but not Donald Trump. And that's more or less a quote from him from about 30 years ago on Oprah when he was asked. He's like, well, I'd like to be somebody like me, but not me, and everything. So it's like, I can respect the man, that he works hard. He is a worker. When I went to see him with XX Mrs. Memes a couple of years ago, frickin' he came by town, we went there, the first thing she said was, he looks tired. It was his third rally that day, and he was doing that like 6 days a week. You can't knock the guy for not working. You might not like how he's working. You might not agree with the stuff he's doing. You might literally...
Easy either way.
Well, right. And I think one of the things is, a lot of folks, especially in politics, they have a lot of these plans that they want to do. And it's like, all right, we're going to do this. It's going to be this way. And then as soon as something comes up, oh my God, it's the worst thing in the world. Like, Donald Trump's been building and refurbishing buildings for years. It's like, if all of a sudden something comes up and this isn't going to be a worthwhile project, you drop it. It's called sunk cost. In politics, if something doesn't quite go the way he initially wanted, he's just going to pivot and just capitalize on that. But the sheer fact that he is so divisive is one of those reasons why it's like, I'm looking there, it's like, well, we got Joe. I don't think, in my opinion, that Joe wants to be here. He literally told us, he's like, I had world leaders call me. I'm saying, Joe, please run for president. I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's talking with foreign, I don't know, is that collusion? What the heck does even collusion mean? You're talking with somebody from other countries and everything? I'm like, where are we doing with this?
You have, like, other leaders saying that. It's like, that doesn't hold. That's not
well, the thing is, at least he's being honest about it. I mean, you might not agree with a thing.
But his campaign has been, and his side have been just, they've been pretty divisive as well. Like, they all have.
Right before we locked down.
A lot of it is some strange stuff, like they were saying that he didn't do anything to try to close the borders, but that's not true. They were calling him a racist for closing the borders, even though China was closing the borders of planes coming in, but not going out.
To be fair for Vice President Biden, when President Trump did tweet out such remarks about closing the borders, some of the verbiage he used, it's, in my opinion, it was bigoted.
Okay, if they sound bigoted, but we're dealing with a virus that's coming from somewhere else, we need to close the borders. That should have been what they focused on and bitched about the other later. But they basically browbeat him about closing the borders, and then everybody blamed him for not doing the borders. That's
well, the thing is, I think a lot of folks thought this was going to be a lot. Well, Moira, I think a lot of folks kind of thought this was going to be like when we had some of those other outbreaks, kind of like when you had like SARS, or like, you remember like the cow flu, or we had the bird flu and stuff like that, and there were a bunch of folks that died.
We actually had more people die from that than this. And if you add on the lockdowns of this and that, the suicide rates went up, the domestic assault and abuse went up. So we actually had more ramifications from that, just as side effects, than the actual virus. Because when we had swine flu, bird flu, and everything else, we didn't shut shit down like this. But we survived. But they decided they were going to capitalize on this because it's a fucking election year. If it hadn't been, I don't think it would have looked like this.
The terrible thing is, I think you're absolutely right on this, because even Jon Stewart pointed this out in, like, even Iran, when they had the former president there that was always taking pop shots at the U.S. and everything. And it's like, wait a second, they're ramping up. Oh, look, it's an election year. Huh. And then you play like some of our rhetoric from election years, and you look at it like, oh, it seems to really have spiked there and everything. And you're just looking at this, and it's like, I'll be straight up, I am surprised we locked down. I actually thought we were just going to trudge on. We'd end up losing a bunch of folks, and then we would end up having herd immunity, and it was going to through because like I mean, if this had like
Well, it's
Ebola,
quite possible that we do because here's another problem with the news is that they use the word corona and COVID interchangeably when it is not. The coronavirus is part of three viruses that are the part of the common cold family. Almost anybody who's had a cold is probably going to have antibodies from that. So if you have the antibodies and you test those antibodies and you find them, you can label it a COVID death, even though the person had the cold 2 years ago. But COVID-19 is a slightly different animal with a similar framework of the coronavirus, but it is not interchangeable. It is not exactly the same thing. HIV and AIDS is not exactly the same thing, but they have the similar markers, and one can change to another. But they have been using in the news. Oh well, coronavirus deaths are up. Is it corona or is it COVID? Because it's one thing one day and the other the next. And they use it interchangeably, and that is scientifically retarded.
I mean, I would say it would be maybe verbally challenged, in my opinion, there.
Okay, you're
And
right. Fred is verbally challenged, scientifically challenged crap. And so you have people afraid of the common cold when almost anybody alive has had a common cold. So of course there's a good chance they'll have antibodies for it. But it doesn't mean that millions and millions are infected. It means at some point they were. And it's
right.
not the same as COVID. And so they have people not knowing the difference, a lot of people, because the way they just use it so interchangeably, like it's the exact same thing, and it's not.
Well,
So
that's the thing. People die from the common cold. People die
yes,
from all
they
different
have an
types
immune system, of course,
of
absolutely.
of illnesses.
People
And
don't die
what
from AIDS. They die from AIDS-related complications because T cells are affected and their immune system is shit. So absolutely, a common cold could kill somebody who's on chemo. It could kill an AIDS patient. Absolutely, totally. But what about our AIDS-related deaths? What levels have we even heard what those levels are? Or are they just labeled COVID as well?
well, I thought they had found like long-term like treatment for AIDS recently because I remember there was a bill that was basically decriminalizing or changing it from a felony to a misdemeanor if you happen to infect somebody and you didn't tell them prior. And I remember as soon as like that legislation came in, immediately I noticed ads playing for all these like retrovirus things to help treat AIDS. I'm like, oh well, that
That
seems like a
sounds interesting.
well. I mean the timing was impeccable. Like literally, it happened. I'm like, oh well, maybe it's because I was talking about this. I'm getting this targeted ad. I don't know.
If that's what it sounds disgusting that you're basically decriminalizing or lessening the offense so that way you can make a shit ton of money with your new pharmaceutical. Oh my God, that's disgusting.
Oh, this. I mean, these
I'm
are.
saying if it's what it sounds like.
And again, I haven't read the legislation. I just remember there was something along those lines, and I'm wondering if maybe some of those treatments were contributing factors there. And let me just take a real quick spin through the chat because this is live, and the reason people watch YouTube is because they like the interaction or everything, or they just like laughing at people on the internet stuff and things. But shout outs to non-com extremists. We get Moonbase Radio Optic Racer. We have MC. MC is cruising through along with Bollocks, formerly known as Magic, as well. Welcome everybody as well. But so Morris, as we were finishing up talking about the doom and gloom and the plagues and the fires and the deaths and the battling.
Oh, and there was a swarm of locusts in Argentina this summer, so someone broke the fifth seal.
Oh. Okay. Plague. Yeah, we got. I saw those potatoes rotting. We got some famine. I mean, don't even get me started on inflation. I do enjoy some economics.
God. See, that is one of the frameworks of all our problems is the fucking inflation. It's not that fuel costs $3 a gallon. Your money is not worth what it used to be. It's not backed by anything. So the more you make of something, the less it's worth anything.
Well,
and that's causing the problems for housing, being able to pay, for wages. Like you raise person's wages up to $15 an hour. That's great, but that's only a temporary solution because then it's just going to keep going right on up.
Well, and that's one of those things because it's like, all right, so we become energy independent for one of the first times in a long time. That is wonderful and everything. So that helps reduce some logistical fuel costs. Okay, that's cool. But one of the things is, with all this inflation, a lot of times what a lot of vendors would do is, like, if you notice, I remember back in the day, if I bought a thing of cranberry juice, because I like my cranberry juice, it used to be 64 ounces. And then I got down to like 62.9. And I was like, it's down to like, I think like 58 ounces and maybe like a half now. What they were doing is they were giving you less product. Because if you notice, I don't know, maybe it's just because I've grown into like a giant over the years. I don't think that's the case. But a lot of those little snack things that I used to like when I was like a teenager and stuff, they seem so small now. But
Oh
even
yeah,
my,
you get a bag of potato chips this big, half of it there.
right, right. You get all that packaging material, and the sheer fact that now even my little cosmic brownies, 2 months into this pandemic and everything, after we start printing all that money,
Brownies.
oh yeah, with the little crispy Rice
I
Krispies.
love
Oh
zebra cakes. I'm not gonna lie. I would fucking like mainline some fucking zebra cakes. That shit is so amazing. Oh my god.
no, my little 50-cent brownies,
Sorry.
my 50-cent brownies went up to 59 in less than 2 months. I'm like, that's almost 20% in a short period of time.
Kai says that they shrunk the Cadbury eggs. Those
What?
Suckers.
Wait, hold on. Kai, is this confirmed? Because if there's one thing you don't F with, it's a man's Cadbury cream eggs. Oh, it's on. It's on now. It's on.
They better be 50% cheaper.
I'm still gonna get them. I love them. I love them so much.
Now we're taking to the streets and rioting. Cadbury's was the final hit.
Oh, jeez. I don't know. Can we even travel to the UK or anything? But yes.
Why are we going to the UK? We're here.
Oh, but they come from Cadbury. I thought that was a UK-based company.
I'm sure they have a warehouse or a factory here that may be British owned or something, but they have a factory here. I'm sure.
Do they?
I reckon.
I mean,
food is fresh.
No, Moira. Here's the thing. We all know that this is one of the reasons why Great Britain is leading into the genetic industries and everything, because they managed to clone that Cadbury bunny. I mean, I'm not sure if we could actually import them here. I'm not sure our rules and laws over like keeping like rabbits in captivity and everything. See, I prefer free-range Cadbury bunnies.
Oh my god.
So, speaking of happy things going on in the world, here's an article from the New York Times from yesterday. This is an opinion piece. And this is just what we were talking about before we got on. Yes, the Ginsburg-Scalia Act was not a farce. So, for those of you that do not know, Justice Ginsburg recently passed away this past Friday. We're going to have all the political implications, this, that, and the other thing. She's been on the court since, I believe, 94 as well. And then we had former Justice Antonin Scalia. He passed away, I believe it was 2 years ago now. They did kind of find him allegedly with a pillow on his face. And again, I do also like pillows, so I have no idea on that. I didn't hear much after, but okay, all I know is...
Someone told the Pelican brief. Of course you're not going to hear much about that.
Again, I don't know. I would figure that if that was the case, but he also was not a spring chicken himself. Neither of them were. Justice Ginsburg was 87. But the big thing was Justice Ginsburg was viewed as just kind of like a liberal sweetheart, a sweetheart of the left, the notorious RBG. And then you got Antonin Scalia, who was basically like the defender of like the Federalists and just like conservative incarnate for many individuals. That was kind of the mimetic that they gave off. And they very often wrote the majority and minority or dissenting opinions in Supreme Court cases. And they would vehemently, intellectually go at each other. And these two individuals that disagreed on so many different issues, as we can see right here, they were good friends. They spent time atop an elephant. And if there's one thing I know, if you spend time on top of an elephant, you're going to be careful. But the big thing, what I got from going through this article, and this was brought to us by Jennifer Senior, and basically they would be out there they would go at each other. And even in one of these articles, I think was Antonin Scalia, after there was a decision, basically he ended up writing his reaction first and then sending it to her before the weekend started. And she was like, so he ruined my weekend that weekend. But they just kind of went at each other, but on the topic of law, because that was what they were both passionate about, the law. They had different takes on it. They viewed it differently, but when they would argue and grind each other down, they weren't grinding each other down like I was using the wrong verbiage. Basically, it seems nowadays very often we're grinding each other down, arguing about politics, taking whatever somebody disagrees with us as a personal slight, an attack on our actual character, whereas they just viewed it, this was their job. They could be friends outside of there, do things. Like I remember seeing them out there, they go out to dinner and everything like that. They were legitimate friends, but they could argue to their heart's content because they also knew that they were friends. And I just think this is a model that we could kind of just, I don't know, try to emulate.
Wookie seems to have a very strong question for you.
Let me see.
We'd like you to explain the verbiage that was considered racist.
The border. Okay, when the president had said that, straight answer, okay. So when you were looking at the president's tweet, this was, I believe, I think it was like January 27th or something, around the time he had closed the border. He sent out something on Twitter. Now, I believe I used the term bigoted. I do believe there is a major difference between saying something that's bigoted and saying something that's racist. Some folks may disagree with me on that. That's fine. My big thing is there was something he said in there. I think he used, did he say China virus? There was something in there that just kind of like, I don't know, maybe it was my liberal, like, I don't know, trigger counter or something like that, where all someone was like, eh. And I believe V. Biden tweeted, that's racist, man, and everything. I do believe we should try to be careful with our words, just like Moira called me out earlier when I said we should have just eradicated this virus. Was she correct that would we eradicate every single little component of it? No, we would not. We would not do that. But I've even heard certain folks that maybe were of the more, let's just say, older generations, straight up say, oh, you can call me a bigot for my views. Just don't call me a racist. Because, especially in these United States, you call someone a racist. And if there's an overt evidence of that person being a racist, I don't know. Back in the day, if that is a great offense, I'm pretty sure folks consider those fighting words. Which, quick shout out, I am working, and it will come sometime soon, the dueling video that I have been talking about. I've put together the little intro. I think you'll enjoy it, because I know I'm having fun with it. All I'm going to say is just remember the tobacco episode from The Simpsons. We'll leave it at that. But as far as that goes, would I necessarily say that what the president said there was racist? In my opinion, that wasn't my thought on it. I did think it sounded bigoted. Now, some folks kind of conflate those words and everything, but I don't know. I tend to agree with Jon Stewart in that labeling somebody a racist, labeling somebody a Nazi or something like that, I think those are terms that are earned rather than we just throwing around. Oh, no worries, no worries.
Somebody was in the bathroom.
I hopefully bloviated long enough to Wookiee's acknowledgement. Did I give him a 100% straight answer? No, but if you actually look at the tweet, and that's one of the things that I have noticed. Folks will look at things and they'll read it, and depending on how they were brought up and just the verbiage that they use and everything in daily life, a lot of folks got no problem with that. Dude, I'll be straight up. I work in a warehouse-like environment. There's some days where it's like, wow, that's a lot of N-bombs. And I'm like, all right, I'm factoring in how this is being said, who may be saying it, everything.
Context for the N-bombs. I mean,
right. In context, it really does make all the difference. And speaking of context, I just want to kind of go back through this and actually just point out one other thing there. But when Justice Ginsburg and Antonin Scalia were actually voted on, and this was about 20, 25 years or so ago. Where is this? Oh, I skipped over it. Oh, when they were nominated to the Supreme Court. Okay, here we go. Ginsburg was confirmed in 1993 by a vote of 96-3 in the Senate. Yes. 96 senators voted to confirm Justice Ginsburg. 3 opposed.
Well,
Antonin
who
Scalia.
House and Senate at the time.
It's voted to. It is voted on the Senate. We'll actually get into it right here. Scalia was confirmed in '86 by a vote of 98-0.
That was during Reagan's administration, and she came in during Clinton's administration.
Mm-hmm. And then among those that voted for Ginsburg was Bob Dole, who would be the Republican nominee for president 3 years later, Strom Thurmond, who once ran for president and as a Dixiecrat supporting segregation, and yes,
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell.
I don't even like him anyway. I didn't like him before everybody didn't like him.
I think Mitch
McConnell. Like, fuck him.
No, well, according to a lot of folks, he's a turtle, and I think that's a characterization that Stephen Colbert from the Colbert Report days.
I don't like Colbert. Colbert is such an arrogant ass.
I think that he was more popular playing a faux conservative. It's what he's trying to do now. Is that him? Yeah, but I'm like, wait a second. Did you just suggest that the president's getting fellatio from the president of Russia? I mean, I don't know. Is there an investigation? All I know is, hey, whatever way you want to swing, whatever you want to do, that's up to you. But if you're negotiating with oral between world leaders, I'm not sure that's appropriate. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, and who voted for Antonin Scalia? Al Gore, John Kerry, and Joe Biden. All of whom went to go on to become Democratic Party's nominee. And also Ted Kennedy, at the time the party's standard bearer for approximately forever. I love that last quote there. Again, this is an opinion piece from the New York Times. But I'm just like, well, that is a mimetic. That is the mimetic we took away for Ted Kennedy.
And it's just an investigation going on right now with Hunter and some foreign collusion as well. Some unexplained monies coming back and forth.
So I would actually probably go to MC on that. He'd probably be more caught up than I have. MC in the chat, he's our resident get off my lawn style conservative dad. Yes. Oh no, I'm sure you two would get along just fine. We often come to he gets loud around me because we disagree at times. Hey, you nerdy. Hey, you Mitch. Welcome, you two. We were just discussing the friendship of Antonin Scalia as well as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, two Supreme Court justices who seem to be on completely different ends of the spectrum, could vehemently disagree in the intellectual. I was going to say octagon because that kind of rhymed, but the intellectual grindstone, but they were still friends. They could go out, chill, grab a bite, ride on an elephant, just things that just normal human beings bond over. So,
well, see, that's the problem with where we're at. No? Like, it's the same as, and we allow ourselves to be in this place, unfortunately. But, like, for instance, like, when I've worked in a bar, I've seen people, like, get into a fight over a football team argument. But the players don't do that. Like, we're at the bottom fighting over the semantics and fighting over this and that, when the people who we're arguing over are hanging out and riding on an elephant and this and that, because we need to handle it the way they did. Like, I mean, not necessarily the whole Justice Scalia being killed, because that just seemed weird, having a pillow over your face.
Well, that is an allegation that is thrown around.
I don't wake up with a pillow on my face.
It's I as an individual that can be a nest builder, I've been known to be under pillows. And again, I have no idea how the justice slept or anything like that. Again, I don't have any other confirmed information aside from just allegations, so putting it out there.
I'm surprised we were given that much, honestly. Like,
right. Yeah. As well as Hail Mad Dodge. feel free to check out Mad Dodge's channel. He actually just recently lost his family home in the fires up there in Oregon. So power to you, Mad, as well. And just to bring up something that basically Joe just kind of brought up there, he's just saying it seems like you can't even have a discussion with some
It's
people.
because we feel so out of control and disconnected that we fight for some kind of control. All of us. Like he was talking about, he has conversations with his friends, get things mirrored, and they sometimes raise their voice at each other. It's because we don't have any control over this. We should do something to get it, but we fight. It's easier to fight each other. It's easier for us to get into fights in the street and argue and do crazy shit instead of going after the actual reason we are fighting.
Wait a second. Are you suggesting that rather than fighting amongst ourselves, we should just pause, have a momentary truce, and look up and be like, "Hi, can you fix this Plox
Actually,
now?"
breath, temporary truce at the very least. Look up and yell charge.
Now. We do not incite violence on this show. We may end up titling this as maybe some activism or something. Oh, that's one of the things.
There is no better activism than a revolution for the Constitution.
Yeah, well, I believe that's what some folks are trying to do right now.
Well, they should have started with the actual government buildings instead of setting Starbucks on fire and killing people in the street.
I think what some would point at, well, I do remember seeing the Minneapolis police station torch burn.
People to death in the street with a skateboard and setting a cop car on fire is not really going straight for the target, so to speak. But you scare your politicians, that's different. They're the ones pulling the strings, so pull theirs. They would have a lot better backing if they hadn't acted like a bunch of savages in the street.
And this is the thing, because there are a lot of, and I've shared this story before, it's like I did go to a Black Lives Matter style protest that was organized by, I believe it was Boston University.
Yeah.
I went down there. There were like 600 folks there. Everyone I saw there was peaceful, was wearing a mask and everything.
The problem is the instigators that come out after curfew, the ones that are left behind who aren't, like, I hate to say, obeying the law. Yeah. Anyway, but the ones like the regular actual protesters, most of them went home. It was the stragglers that sort of
so kind of like went up, kind of like the
ones that were starting fires and doing this.
Oh, you mean kind of like closing time at a bar when? No. The reason why I say this is an individual that's helped out at some bars and helped close up some of these bars. It's like the folks that either stay after you're closed, they're either well-known patrons that somebody that works there usually has some form of a relationship with, or the person that you're like, why are they still here? And very often they are causing trouble and stuff. And I mean, that's a combination of intoxication, and some folks just like seeing the world burn. I realize this. I totally was one of these people.
Yes, and a lot of the people who we end up seeing on TV, it's kind of, you know how like if you will have an audience and you have plant people in the audience, it's kind of like that concept to see who can get other people to rile them up. Like, hey, let's go do this. Some will, some won't. But you can always spot the little fuckers because they're dressed a little different than everyone else. They're dressed in such a way to recognize each other in a fashion. And they all look like they hit Hot Topic about 20 years ago. So they're pretty fucking easy to spot.
Are you saying we've Jerry Springerized basically a lot of our social interactions?
That is true. It has happened, but so the protest, taking to the streets and everything, ended up getting a bad name and everything because it was made to. Because if these plants hadn't been put there to make things worse, how how many people do you think might have actually joined?
I mean, that is one of the big things, and this is why, like, even on like
Yeah.
Facebook and
We'd be
stuff.
more likely, you and me and other people are more likely to take to the street and be like, they're right, this is fucking bullshit. What, might be my family next. Hell yeah. But when these guys
Dude, well, my brother got attacked by a cop.
oh,
This is this was basically, in my opinion, I tend to at least believe it was a series of unfortunate events. My brother came out of a Burger King bathroom. Like, he happens to like privacy. He goes in, he uses the stall. He was actually on work time, I believe, and he was just getting out there. And as soon as he's like washing his hands and everything, guy comes up next to him that was in the bathroom. Literally, gives him the warble, forces him to the ground. My brother's like, I'm freaking getting assaulted in like a Burger King. My brother starts calling for help and everything. And this dude didn't identify, at least according to my brother, as an officer in any way. Just literally jumps in. He's like, where are the drugs? He goes in the stall. Apparently, the individual that had gone there before him had left a bag of something or what or anything. And my brother's like, what the hell is going on? So he literally got rough. Dude, someone else ended up coming in there. They was undercover. There was two undercover cops over there. They came in and everything. And my brother brought up a huge point. He's like, dude, what happens if I was like carrying? Like, what happens if I had a license to carry in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? It's a concealed carry permit, Class A, all lawful. Basically, he could have gotten stopped by just some guy in an area that does have crime. Literally could have pulled out the firearm, shot the first person, and then his partner would have come in and killed him.
or he would have shot him too, because if you come in there like this at me, I'm probably going to keep on pulling.
Well, the thing is, he was down on the ground, basically, because the other guy was doing a positioning maneuver to try to kind of restrain him. So I'm saying, as my brother pulled, all of a sudden the other cop comes in, advantage, surprise, and all of a sudden, and that's the thing, my brother probably would have been dead.
See, exactly. And so that all could have, like, that whole thing could have been handled different.
Right. My big thing is, okay, it was a series of unfortunate events, the drugs there, and I...
But what's been going on has not been just a series of unfortunate events. They have been systematically put in place to make sure that any rabble-rousing that can be done will be done. And so that's a lot of what kept people away going, yeah, I can't back them. Look at what's going on. You know, there's a bunch of fucking little white liberal college dropout kids that are actually the main problems of it. I mean, it doesn't mean other people of other races don't, get wound up into the rabble-rouse as well. That's what they're there to do, to try to kind of recruit it, to get it going, to stir the pot, And a lot of times, like as the evening progresses, there's a lot of the protesters go away, and those particular ones are left, and it gets worse.
Well, I think also what happens, and again, I don't have information on this, but I just got a gut feeling that some of the folks that are there usually early on, they're there because they really care. They would like to see true systematic change.
Right.
Like you would see, like I think like they had the Wall of Moms and stuff like that. And
the Wall
of
Moms was absolute shit. That was a meat shield to make people feel bad. And
well, I mean, it was no.
Kick in doors and break into boarded up buildings.
It's
not a wall of anything. It's that bullshit.
Well, the thing is the amount of information. Because I'll be straight up. It's like if I was just listening to like just NBC's just like daily wrap up and stuff that they do like in the morning and stuff. I'll listen to that sometimes. There's some stories that they will cover that I have heard, and I'm like, oh, there seems to be what some may view as a lie by omission of some things. I'm like, okay, well, I'm noting that. How substantive is it to what was involved? Well, I mean, that's an editorial decision there. But then again, at least it has been mentioned that they'll be like, yes, it's mostly peaceful. But when there's violence, it's like, well, they're showing violence right even before I came on over here. It's like, I was listening to a little stream there. It's like they have folks on the ground and stuff. Somebody had allegedly been shot in the face with a pepper ball. The reporter on the ground said, I cannot independently confirm this because they did not see it. So, I mean...
Right, that's fair to say. This is what I heard. I cannot confirm. That's fair. But stating it as fact or not is a different thing. But, like, there is a possibility this has happened. This is what I heard.
It was what was reported by... an individual, and that was the thing. And like
Right,
often,
yeah.
if
See, I'm good with that because if that's what you heard, that's what you heard. Cool. You're just letting me know that that's hearsay. You're not sure. That's fair. Totally cool. All right. It gives you an idea of the environment and what's going on and what's possibly happened. I'm totally
right,
cool with that. I
and
just, but
go
a
on.
lot of manipulation and shit that's been going on in regular media. We're better off trusting people's cell phones being uploaded to the internet at this point. Really, honestly, like we're getting more accurate footage at this point because they'll put up whatever they film, whereas the media might decide, well, we can't show this and we can't show that.
Right. And
Well,
this is where a lot of like the whole concept for Project News Quest kind of came up because it's like, all right, if we go down there, it's like our one requirement is just send us full raw footage and stuff. We can put up all the clips we have. It's like, okay,
that's
yes.
why I
Oh,
was preferring to actually do live feed instead of just video.
hmm.
So like,
Well, that was
video
how we
chat,
had. Well, one of our correspondents, frickin' like Burnside, frickin', he was covering one of the Chicago rallies from a couple of months ago, and what it appeared to me, what happened on that video is he got shot at. He literally was pulling past another vehicle. I do. This is all on film. This is all on film, and you can see him driving by. He pulls up. You see an individual get out there. He's got something in his hand. Kind of looks like a revolver to me. I can't say that, but all of a sudden you just hear a bang, and it wasn't a light pop. He's like, oh, he's like, it's like, what happened? He's like, oh, the dude had a gun. I think it was a cap gun. It's like, I listened to that. I've been to a firing range.
that's
Maybe
not,
it was the
you
echoes of
totally can be a
Chicago,
cat
but
gun and
it's
not a cat gun.
well. The thing is, the dude missed. Maybe it accidentally went off. I mean, he followed through. He reported it to all the appropriate individuals and everything. They
So
had the plate and everything.
if you had it up and it went off by accident, my ass.
Well, the thing is, and the terrible thing is, okay, no, actually, the beautiful thing is, I don't even know how the hell to phrase what I'm about to say right here. Is had he been shot, had he died on that newscast as part of Project News Quest, at that point, he becomes the story, and it's like, don't get me wrong, like I love to be famous and everything. Do you want to have to be famous for seeing one like your friends get shot and lose their life and just
Yeah,
be
I
going on the
would
news and being this story? It's like, no, fuck that.
yeah,
But
I
it
would
was a precursor to things that we are literally seeing. Americans are killing other Americans over
and
politics.
that is the problem I was talking about, where justices are up there and politicians are up there and they're hanging out having lunch while we're fighting. Let's if there's going to be any taking to the streets, take it to them.
Well, Moira, I'd like to push back on that. While we did have Justice Ginsburg and Justice Scalia had what appeared to be, and just by all accounts, a true and meaningful friendship. This is something that my old man pointed out to me a number of years ago, and that I believe a lot of the divisiveness that we are seeing in Washington is because we are lacking that. Because back in the day, what he was told is a lot of the folks, they would live in Washington. Their kids would go to school in Washington. They would go to Little League games together. They would go out, and you would have that shared common experience among the folks in government. And now you have folks spending their time back in their districts trying to raise money doing this and that. And it's like, if you don't have that interval like relationship and interactions with your fellow creatures, especially those that you disagree with, if your only interactions are crap interactions, no wonder we're going to treat each other like crap.
That is no excuse for them to ignore the Constitution and everything else. They should still know how to do that. And the point is, the fact that, and this has been going on for a long time, this didn't start with Trump. Divisiveness didn't start with Trump. People might see things that are there or see more clearly or see things they think is there because they were told to by the media. But there was divisiveness during the Obama administration. There was divisiveness during Clinton's administration. It's just things are different now because media is out there and we're seeing more things than we used to. We're seeing there's more corruption than there was. Like things are leaking better than they were. Now they're punishing people who tell the truth, which is getting a lot of people's attention. Things are getting more blatant now. And it's happening so
it's
fast,
very
I don't know what to make of it.
right. no matter what view you hold with the Internet stuff and things, you can usually very easily find something that's going to confirm whatever bias you have.
Well,
And
yeah.
then, yeah, you can have that, and very often, a lot of these platforms and companies, they are incentivized to keep your eyes glued to the screen for as long as possible. If they're showing you things that you don't like, very often, well, you're probably going to do something else. If they keep showing you things you like, it's going to progress, and everything. And I think this was kind of the theory or hypothesis behind the whole alternative influencer network. I do think that showed us something. What it specifically showed and what may have been fully claimed are probably a bit off. Again, it was more of a hypothesis, but I want to get to Optic Racer's question here. Means more. Do you think either side would offer real change, or as many believe it doesn't matter much of a difference due to corruption, etc.?
Well, I hate to say this. I do think one side is a little better than the other, and I think one side just is prolonging what's inevitably coming anyway, and one will bring it faster. But my dad used to say that absolute power will corrupt absolutely. So if any group has any too much power, it's not going to be good. So I think the Trump side is going to prolong the inevitable because who knows what backlash is coming after him? We don't know. And if we have Biden, I think it'll come sooner. Either way, it's not going to go well because remember when I was discussing the fact that we fight each other over the stuff that the people we're fighting don't really fight each other over. They don't lose as much sleep about it as we do. Probably because it really doesn't affect them as much as it affects us. People that are on the lower part of the totem pole like we are the ones that will be affected the most. And honestly, I can see a lot of the rabble rousing, for lack of a better term, going ballistic if they lose, and so celebrating ballistically if they win, because they think they have taken over. So when any side thinks it's got too much power, it can become a serious situation for anyone. So I think one side's a little better than the other, and it'll be safer, but there's also going to be riot in the streets if it does. And if the worst side wins, there's no telling exactly how things are going to change for the long run. Either way, I don't think November 4th is going to be very happy for anyone.
Yeah, it's the sheer fact, and I think kind of like what you were articulating right there is kind of just like what I like to refer to as more just like the general mimetic that people are taking away. It's just folks right now, some of them, maybe they don't necessarily say this, but a lot of the stuff that is going on in this country is just, I believe, just due to the polarization. Are there a lot of folks out there for particular issues? Yeah. I mean, just statistically, that's going to be the case. Are there folks, like you were talking about earlier, that are basically just want to be an accelerationist? They happen to be a firebug. Maybe they just want to just cause destruction and everything, especially if you've been cooped up and you're like, this is an excuse to go outside and socialize? Oh my God.
You're right. There is going to be some of those assholes that just want to get out and go buck wild. Absolutely. Sometimes you don't have to pay someone to be crazy. They just do it. So absolutely. So some of this absolutely could have been that.
Well, that's the thing. Even helping out as like a door guy and stuff like that. It's like one of the things that I noticed, were there occasionally folks that were working like the door and stuff that would just give stuff just straight back to somebody that maybe just kind of like messed up and was saying things? Yeah, that seemed to accelerate things. But you want to know what? The dude, man, the head of security that was built like a gorilla that pulled like 300 pounds off my chest in the gym and stuff, he was the dude that I would walk alongside with, and he would actually use his words and communicate for somebody that was there like with their brother. You could tell their brother's all effed up on all this stuff. It's like, listen, man, you don't have to go home. You can't stay here right now. We're asking you to leave. Guy starts kind of getting, he's calming himself down. We de-escalate it, and they leave, and they can go somewhere else. It's like, yeah, if there's a situation arising, you don't want to have to deal with it. If it comes to that, yeah, then you got to do what you got to do. But one of the other things I just wanted to bring up here is what, where was it? Mitch brought it up here. Something about police hiring when he was talking about, where was it? Slogan, here we go. All right. No one ever points to what led to the lowering of hiring standards for police. It's still easy to shout slogan number 4 and pretend to be a hero for the people and doing nothing of value. I mean, feet in the streets do make a difference. If you want to just say it's optics, okay, yeah, it is optics. It is effective. But something that I learned from Mitch a while ago, and Mitch, if you're still here, if you could actually give me the case, because I want to do a video on it. It's basically an individual is denied being hired at a police department because apparently he scored too high on an IQ test.
I heard that a couple of times years ago. I heard about that. Yeah,
So
that's frightening. You're putting the law and a gun and important decision making into the lowest fucking common denominator you possibly can, and putting him in a uniform. And we're supposed to hero worship this? Absolutely fucking not. In my day, we were proud to blare "fuck the police." Now everybody's running around with a fucking sticker on the back of their car because someone with the lowest standard fucking got hired. 200 years ago, they had a British flag on the back of their fucking car. This is outrageous.
the sheer fact.
I don't mind the concept of civilized law and order. I don't. But I expect the police to be held to the same or a higher standard than me. Because if someone is running away from my house, try to break in and is running away from my house, and I put 2 bullets in his back, I am going to go to jail. Okay? Now, I understand not wanting the bad guy to get away, but when we hear things that are leaked, like there was some police chief or some fucking something that was recorded when he was talking to some of his officers and basically said that it's cheaper just to kill the person than it is to injure them, that's not a good optic, as you would say, for dealing with the community. Like your brother getting hassled in the bathroom because he happened to needed to go take a piss and happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Poor guy. What if he'd gotten shot for defending himself? You got cops that can act above the law and virtually get no punishment. If we do something, we are fucked. There's something wrong. We can't, in a civilized fashion, interact and have this part of the community if this is how they're acting. This is one thing that I may agree with the left on. Now, defunding, I don't know what good that's going to do. I don't think they need militarized equipment and like IED-proof tanks. No, I think that's just unnecessary as fuck. This isn't Iraq, okay?
What are your thoughts on badge cams?
Dash cams, chest cams, fuck yeah. And evidence better not be missing. That camera better be on. Absolutely. Because then the police officer is safe from being accused of sexual assault or anything else. And it also, if the cop gets out of pocket, it'll show him beating the shit out of somebody who isn't doing anything. And I think they should be held to the same standard as us or better. Because if they are in a position of authority, they should not abuse that authority. And when they do, a punishment should come down that equals that deceit and that betrayal.
With great power comes a greater responsibility, and this is one of the big things, and this really bothers me, and again, maybe it's my conspiracy hypothesis part of my brain just kind of tingling there. My thing is, I'm like, okay, so why don't we have universal badge cams? We've been hearing about this stuff for years. I mean, it's like you said, it's like, all right, if we're gonna fund it, cameras are expensive.
Hold on, universal is it for all police, or universal is in every car have a dash cam?
I would like to see uniformed officers while on duty and stuff like that to have it, just for the reasons you were saying.
Was because you are a police officer, you are signing up for a particular job. Just like in the military, you sign up for a certain thing. You understand that you will still have some rights, but certain things will be gone. Like, you can't necessarily be as vocal about political beliefs, for instance, the same way you and I can. Right. On the clock, so to speak, whatever. But yes, if you are in the military or a police officer, particularly in this situation, you have signed up and agreed that you're going to keep things above board. You're going to do this, and you understand that the dash cam and your body cam come with territory on top of the fact that it will protect you from being accused of things you didn't do. And it also protects the other person from you planting drugs on them. It helps, and this is important. This is an important part of evidence. And there's a very unfair, biased that a lot of times when someone's arrested, they automatically assume, and I have seen it 100 times. Oh, well, he got arrested. Well, he shouldn't have done this or he shouldn't have done that. Like, how do we know for sure he actually did? Like, I believe in the stranger danger attitude of it. That I don't assume everybody's bad necessarily, but some are, and so you've got to be careful. And I believe that's the same with the police. Some are good, some are not. You don't necessarily want to find out you don't want to be on the business end of finding out. And there should be punishments if, like, for instance, they get the wrong house, kick in the door, and shoot my daughter. I think something should be done. I mean, she's only 13. I mean, like, they have something called qualified immunity that helps protect them from lawsuits. That shouldn't be there. Because if they did something wrong, they should pay just like anyone else.
I've been going back and forth on qualified immunity because I've typically been a fairly big kind of like pro cop guy just because, well, maybe formational years and stuff like that. Just, I don't know, had like wrestling coaches that were cops and everything. Well, coincidentally, once they actually gave me a ticket when I said I wasn't wrestling. But yeah, I was totally speeding. But that's another story there. But the thing is, it's qualified immunity. Certain things I can understand if you're expected to put your life on the line. And a lot of this comes down to, I think, the training. Because a lot of these situations I see that I'm like, okay, these seem completely morally reprehensible. This is how a lot of these folks are trained as well. And I think what ends up happening is you do have a few bad apples. And how do they ruin the bunch? It's if somebody says something or somebody does something, you have the quote-unquote the thin blue line and stuff.
Yeah,
so
exactly. You're expected to defend the brotherhood no matter what.
Exactly, and the issue I think we run into is there are times where individuals just do something sleazy, and even if somebody reports it, if you have all of a sudden like one officer does something crappy, and you got 5 other officers attesting that, well, this is exactly what happened in the report and everything, well, it's your word against like 6 cops and stuff at that point. And if there is no video, exactly, if there's no video evidence and everything, and I think it's when situations like that happen that folks are just like, I have no chance and stuff. And again, when somebody if somebody is arrested, we also call that person a suspect. Because they have not been convicted.
Yes, they are suspected, but the way that people, like online in general, like the natural attitude they have is like, well, maybe he shouldn't have broken the law. Like, were you there? He might not have. And people automatically assume the police officer is right no matter what until proved different. And see, and that is a very unjudicial, unconstitutional way to look at this. We're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. And we don't have that attitude. We don't have that attitude for anyone but ourselves half the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, folks tend to act in their own self-interest, but one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of badge cams, just one, for the reasons you pointed out, is because, one, it prevents the cops from getting alleged to have done something that they didn't do.
And it also helps confirm that the other person has been abused.
Well, exactly. If you're just sitting there and everything, and especially if it was a very minor thing, if you're not getting up to the cop's face and the cop just starts yelling at you for no apparent reason, we can very quickly sort out the bad apples.
Early this year, there was footage of a woman sitting on the curb. She had her hands cuffed behind her back, and she was sitting there. She had her head down. The cop walked by and kicked her square in the face. Now, I don't know. There was no audio, so I don't know if she said something about his mom. I don't know. But that person is sitting on the ground, knees almost to chest, because when you're sitting on the curb, you're kind of like this, and just kicked him right in the face. No. I don't care what she said about your mom or your dog. No. That person was unarmed and cuffed and kicked him in the face. That is unnecessary. And I don't think anything happened to the cop for it. But that's outrageous. That person was in no danger. Just what? They hurt your feelings? Did you forget what the law and the Constitution? Oh, okay, well, I guess I'll go by my feelings. I'll just do whatever I want. Doesn't matter because my feelings. Okay.
And this is, and I think a lot of this is probably some of the tensions. And now that we're actually talking about, I'm running through it because that kind of used to be more of a unifying thing too. Like, what were 2 of the big things that, regardless of whether you were left or right, you typically got behind? Well, it was the military and it was law enforcement. And I think
the getting behind law enforcement that didn't come to the head the way it did until about 2001. when we started really hero worshiping first responders. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll wave a flag for paramedics and firemen all day because they come to help you when you call and they don't try to look for trouble and they leave when they're done, which is what responders are supposed to do. But I mean, I've seen cops up on bridges with fucking radars, just looking for somebody to start some shit with, so they can like write their buddies down, message them like, hey, there's a blue Honda Civic coming your way, But I mean, that's why aren't they out there solving rape cases? Come on, you're gonna try to get somebody for 5 over? Be real. Come on. That what you planned on being when you were a kid, when you wanted to go save the world and be a cop? No, I'm not hero worshiping that. I'm not hero worshiping people who pull people over because of quotas. I'm not. No, you shouldn't want quotas. You should be like, wow, there's not a whole lot of crime going on. That's pretty fucking awesome. That's nice.
I mean, isn't that showing that, maybe our law enforcement's doing its job? There don't seem to be a lot of crime around here. I mean, like, isn't that what we're trying for?
But unfortunately, there is crime. There's rape cases that haven't been solved. There's children still missing. Go fucking find them. Quit pulling people over because like they forgot their blinker. I know it's annoying, but let's be honest. Is that really top of the list? I mean, if they're swerving in and out of traffic, like this, yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah, obviously that's a danger to anybody. But like, I've been on the highway coming from Arkansas to here, and I've literally seen a cop standing on the bridge with his radar gun, so he can message his buddy down the road. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. Do they not have any cases they need to solve here?
I think that's right there is one of the reasons why a lot of folks have just been so quick to just up and just kind of like throw cops under the bus, because let's face it, it's when your average Sally Dick or Jane has an interaction with the police, overall, is it because they are saving your life in that situation? I mean, hopefully a lot of folks don't have to go through something like that. I think most folks' standard interaction is they're getting a citation or they're getting pulled over. I don't know about you, but I don't know if a cop pulls behind me, I don't all of a sudden get a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Right, exactly. It's funny how red, white, blue stands for freedom till it's in your rearview mirror. But, like, I mean, but you see spikes in this near certain times of the month, like when it's quoted. Okay, don't tell me people suddenly drove worse. No.
I'll be straight up. I keep hearing about that, and if that's legal at all, that sounds like one of those things that I don't know. Maybe we should put a type of regulation on, because now you're literally.
It's going to be a quota. If it's going to be a quota,
you were incentivizing a police officer to literally look for this. It's like, I thought just being on the beat, at least when I was a security officer, again, I was never a cop or anything, but when I was a security officer, it's like, your job is to deter, detect, and like report. It's like, this is what you do, DDR. It's just, there being a uniform on somebody standing there dissuades a lot of folks. It's kind of like locked doors help keep honest people honest, whereas if you don't see that presence, a lot of folks who are like, well, I really wasn't going to do anything, but it's like, okay, this potential crime of opportunity. Maybe I can steal something. Maybe I can cause some chaos there. It's like a lot of stuff we see happening around the country. If you remove all authority and just create a vacuum, and especially I'm curious about all the plane tickets from different parts of the country coming to some of these cities, like you said, that might kind of be looking to, I don't know, instigate or hashtag get famous.
That'd be something to look for, but like, let's see. I mean, there's a lot of times that a cop, and I've heard of it numerous times from people. They'll get pulled over, and the cop will be like, want to search their vehicle, and be like, you can look in the window, but I mean, and they're like, well, all right, and they'll think that because you said no, that's probable cause to search. No, it's not. It's my goddamn business.
Well, that's the thing, and a lot of folks don't know their rights. A lot of folks. No, one of my buddies got arrested because, well, it was my fault too, because I wanted to go back to a party that I said was going to get broken up because, well, I was in hormones. But he was driving. We got pulled over when we got there, and the cop asked if he could search the vehicle. He did. And of course, there was a 30 rack in the back, and we were all under 21 in the vehicle, and he ended up getting arrested. And our other friend, we rode with them, and then we end up picking him up on the side of the road like 2 o'clock in the morning, just by happenstance. He's doing well now.
I hope so. But yeah, like I need to heat up my coffee. All work it. I wouldn't vote for Kanye.
Well, Kanye may be on the ballot in like 13 states. I'm hearing I haven't heard much from his campaign recently.
Yeah, I think one of the deadlines he missed by 15 minutes. I'm like, that's petty.
As long as it's evenly enforced, because I do remember stuff like that.
It is, and I get that, but I'm just saying, like 15 minutes. Really?
Now, is it 15 minutes because you had to wait in the clerk line for 3 hours, or I don't know how that works.
I don't know. He just said that he arrived 15 minutes late, so I assume traffic.
Well, that's one of the big things that we just kind of see whether it's a cop or any individual that just basically you can go heat up your coffee and stuff, Moira. I will keep everyone entertained the best as I can as everyone tools out after the pretty lady leaves. But one of the things you see, whether it's a police officer, whether it's like Joe's pointing out, your boss or somebody that happens to be in a position of power, you hope that they're highly qualified individuals that are doing the best for their company, for themselves, and yes, for you as well, because you are part of the company or corporation as well. You hope for the case. Is that always the case? Oh, hell no. That's the thing, and that's kind of like why I have like my whole 5 tenets of humanity. It's like, all right, we're all more similar than we are different. All right, aside from a couple strands of protein, we're more or less the same. 2.
I went to coffee and it came back with a brownie. My fat ass can't stop. Sorry.
Is it a cosmic brownie?
No. I have a THC sensitivity. It gives me anxiety. Something terrible.
Oh. I was talking about the actual brand Cosmic Brownies. They don't normally have THC in them.
No, it's just like Heinz or whatever the fuck it is. Betty Crocker.
Heinz makes brownies?
Well, no.
I thought they did pickles and ketchup.
I thought Heinz.
It's probably Betty Crocker.
I thought Heinz also did like cake mixes and stuff.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I lift that stuff up and put it down on a pallet.
Maybe the Mandela effect. I don't know. Continue.
Oh, what's the Mandela effect? I'm just playing. But, oh, well, thank you for interrupting me as I was forgetting what I was saying anyway. It's all right. I literally had a mind blank. I'm like, oh, Moira has returned. This is good timing here. But, I really don't got much more and everything. We've been going for pushing an hour and 20 minutes. I'm happy to wind down. If anybody in the chat had any questions for myself or Miss Moira over here. Oh, speak of the devil and he shall appear. Oh, welcome. We're live.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Moira, you technically may... Hold on, I'll move him back down there.
What?
No, that was actually my brother right there. He was on a Zoom call for college and everything, and I sent him the link, and I was going to do the stream with other people and invite you after the fact, but seeing as I didn't hear back. Okay. All right, we are live, CM as well. Just FYI. Did you want to pop in here? I got you. All right. Boom. Okay, he left. All right, he decided against it. Oh well, it's probably for them. No, basically, I had sent the 2 other gentlemen I normally do the stream with on them the link, and then you were doing your WTF news earlier, and I'm like, all right, let me pop in. All right, she's finishing. So I mean, hey, we got something going. It was good. I can always do it with them another day as well. I'll try to start doing this daily show on maybe a slightly daily occurrence, because I really used to like The Daily Show, which aired 4 days a week. Maybe I'll follow a similar model, because people seem to like talking about stuff and things. Oh, well, will I be voting this election? I plan on writing in Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang. That's my current thing. Or Unity 2020. I don't know
about the last write-ins, but I can see going for Tulsi.
It's well that
I just really have a strong aversion to voting for a hair sniffer.
I'm not gonna lie. I personally like nice smelling hair,
Not on
That's a point
children.
of personal preference. I mean, well, that's kind of creepy and everything. All I know is from what I'm looking at and everything, I those were also the two candidates I visited. Is there bias there? Sure, but all I know is a lot of their ideas seem to hold merit, and I watched Tulsi actually moderate, play as an in
I'm
between.
just shocked and astounded because does she not qualify as a woman of color?
Oh well, I mean she's
And they
Hindu, I
made
believe.
sure that she didn't get to go speak at the DNC. What a bunch of fucking shitheads. I hope
She
they don't
also
talk about inclusiveness and women's
she
rights.
also got a couple of votes from I think American Samoa that I don't believe anyone said her name when I was listening to all states and territories announcing who they were pledging their delegates for. That
Yes,
was the thing. That I'm like, all right,
yes,
she had like 2 to 4. I'm like, yeah, that's not a huge amount, but that's still something. You're still supposed to say her name.
yeah. And I think it's shitty because they're talking about inclusiveness and race and this and that. And so, because there's a woman of color who happens to not exactly speak the way you want her to or say the words you want, you absolutely disinvited her from coming to the DNC. I don't want to hear any more they got to fucking say. Like,
She resigned from the DNC, which I think she was like a
but
vice
they
chair
still,
or something
if
after they
they can
screwed
invite,
Bernie.
if they can invite someone to the DNC to speak who was convicted on beating and killing an autistic person, I think they can invite Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, hey, Dark Conservatory. Welcome, Dark God, as well. We're just wrapping up here. Final thoughts on anything you want to put in here, Moira?
That was pretty much where I was at.
Cool. But my thing is, and one thing to kind of just bring in here, and Tulsi, and again, I haven't, allegedly there's a surfing video of Tulsi where apparently she's surfing or something like that. I mean, I was more of a fan of just, oh, she's speaking reasonably. And she actually seems like she cares. And she actually practices gastro diplomacy. When she first got to Congress, you want to know what she did? She had her mom make a whole crap ton of her famous toffee for everybody in
Oh,
Congress. Or
that's
at
cool.
least in the House of Representatives. Freaking like, for the House and their staff. So it was literally like a thousand something bags of like all this special like toffee and everything like that. And it's like, oh, somebody that goes between the aisles, that actually stood up for principle and everything, that actually, oh, happens to be a progressive, happens to be a woman of color, happens to be a military veteran. Um, I don't know. If you were looking to quote unquote check boxes, that seems like a lot. Oh, wait. That would lead into the mimetic of, oh, is the party trying to control some things here? I mean,
Of course.
those are the things that kind of bother me. I mean, if that's how you want to do it, it's like okay. But even I heard, who was the former libertarian? Justin Amash. He was on with Brett Weinstein last week, and what he said, it's like, yeah, it's like members of Congress, they don't even seem to have control or anything. It's like you got the leaders, and it's like whatever Speaker Pelosi says, it's like okay, you can do this, you can do that, but they seem to be controlling everything. Now, some might say that that's a good thing because, well, if you got other members that are just kind of going savagely at each other, well, I have been one to say that if folks are going to act like
Wookie.
children, you treat them like children.
Right. Wookie. That is silly. Hillary does not eat babies. She she takes that chemical out of their brain. Duh.
Oh, well, that sounds like something that somebody probably heard on the internet.
It was
And
part
we
of
all know what they
the
say
show.
about
I
the
don't think he
internet.
actually believes that she eats babies. He's just inferring how evil she is. And so I was
Oh.
adding some fucked up humor. Don't be silly. She doesn't eat babies.
Oh,
They
so
just
it
use
was
the
a
chemical.
metaphor.
It's chemical they take out of their brain. That's all.
Now I realize that, and again, doesn't make it right that it's being said, but we had a clarification here with about 8 people watching. Now, we cleared up that clarification with 8 people watching. Now, if only the president could avoid speaking in such metaphors with 60 million plus people watching. I'm just saying. He could have a chance to be totally great-ish do some. And again, a lot of the policy things he's done, it seems to have been
Yeah,
standard
sometimes.
conservative. But I'm just like,
Yes, Wookie, we know she is, dear. And yes, I know Trump's not the best at Twitter, but on the bright side, at least there wasn't like 3 or 4 accidental weapons drops into ISIS territory like it was during Obama's administration. So, sometimes you just gotta make a trade.
yeah. I mean, you can hold everyone to account for pretty much everything. This is the thing. Federal government's also very large, but I think the point I'll leave on because I'm getting some beeps and stuff. But we have access now to just so much information so quickly. How we're getting it, I think I just want to wrap it full circle around to something you said earlier, Moira, is the sheer fact that we're getting bombarded constantly with all this information. I think we're actually being resensitized now. And if we've been trained via Twitter and all these different social media platforms that if we're interacting with somebody anonymously, and says we don't know them, we can just freaking go right at them and just go balls to the walls because, well, there's no repercussion. We're just sitting here behind screens and
Exactly,
stuff like that. We've
exactly.
taken that mentality. We're starting to
That's
use it with folks
exactly
that
the
we
problem.
know, and now we're using it in real life. Well,
Right.
I
And
don't know this person. They're obviously the worst thing in the world. So obviously, if they were the worst person in the world, they don't even deserve life. And it's like, wait, hold on, no, pause. No,
see,
no.
that's exactly
We're
what it is.
human beings.
Remember when we were younger, and there would be like in our classroom or wherever there'd be a sign that said, "Behave as though the world is watching." Because I remember that. Now, granted, we don't always, but both sides. Now, I've seen one side do a little more than the other, but both have been guilty in general, as a whole, not individuals. I'm just saying, but as a whole, have both have been guilty of just going at someone's throat. Like you can just simply block somebody, but going at each other's throat like there's no punishment or consequence, and perhaps there's not. But maybe we shouldn't act like that. Maybe that shouldn't be the mentality we allow ourselves to have. We argue, sure, but well, I guess like that. Dial it back, like Wookie said. Dial it back because I mean I don't know if he's saying that in reference to this, but it works. But yeah, like I don't usually get into internet arguments. Actually, surprisingly, I don't. I'll put something up. I might be edgy, and I'll be like, "Ooh, that's edgy," but I won't necessarily if I'm saying for or against it. You know, you know. I just kind of put it up there like, "Hey, this is what I saw. I'll share it with you."
Well,
That.
that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I enjoy a bit of banter. I feel like,
Oh, I don't mind it. I'm just saying, like, for the most part, I don't have people coming at me sideways. I managed to not get into internet arguments. Once or twice, someone has posted and said, "Yeah, this turned out to not to be true." Article. And I was like, "Ah, motherfucker." I wait a few minutes, take it down, like shit. Because I'm not trying to do that, but like if it's not right, okay, fair enough. You
well,
know,
that's the thing. As long as you're open to criticism and you don't have a problem with necessarily being wrong about something, it's like, oh, well, if you're wrong, well, why were you wrong? Very often, it's like, well, if you didn't have information,
right.
if you didn't have this information and this information would have changed your mind to begin with, why would you want to continue being wrong? I mean,
Right,
is
yeah,
is
I like to do
do you
that.
not? And I think a lot of this is some folks just maybe just don't have self esteem. This is one of the
I
big
have
things.
self-esteem, but I try to have some decorum at least.
Hmm. Well, I mean, some folks, I mean, they call it like principle or something like that.
Mm.
It's like, as long as you kind of have
I
some
don't use
core
it like
guiding
that.
principles, I mean, you should be able to kind of navigate around. It's like, you might
Right.
not like it. There might be
I've
folks that are
seen
doing
emails
something
writing
you
on Twitter about
despise,
crazy shit, and I'm just like,
but,
how did this even happen? And I'm
mm,
like, you know. But thankfully, I don't really ever get dragged into it. I mean, I'll watch it like Twitter melee happen in front of me. I'm like,
when I go out of my way to try to engage in conflict, like, I feel like a magnet that's just repelling everything. Like, folks kind of seem to stay away. And then very often when I'm just kind of like, just saying something, I'm like, oh, well, this will be a nice thing to say. I highly offend people, and like they'll be crying and all this, and I'm
I
like,
know
wait.
you saying something that'll make someone cry.
Well, I was probably referring to more my personal life and or maybe ex
Oh,
Mrs. memes, but I mean
oh,
these things happen.
oh.
Um, but I don't know, man. I don't know. All I know is I I Who even knows at this point? But my big thing is, I think we can do better. I think we can do better. I know we can do better.
God, we have to. We have to. Even the other side doesn't. We have to, because I mean, there are certain things obviously we'd have to tweak and stuff to navigate if the other side is going to be all fucking savage and shit. But for the most part, we need to put one foot in front of the other and keep walking that straight line, not deter. And maybe other people will fall in line and stop too. If they don't, we keep going and just walk through it.
I think what you just described there is leadership. The sheer fact. All I know is I actually got reprimanded at one point when it was convenient for folks to bring it up. When I was asked to leave my former high school. Yes, I probably should actually do a video on that. Basically, I maybe that's why a lot of this stuff hasn't bothered me, because about 18 years ago, coming up on the date right around November, yeah, I was basically labeled as a fascist terrorist at my former high school because of,
For what?
well, let's just say some political reasons. I was engaging in civil disobedience in a. All right, so long story short, long story short, I threw a wrestling match against a team because I did not like the politics of the coaching staff and certain things that they were doing. After I did that, I threw the match. I got up. I gave the coaching staff a two-fingered salute, told them to F off, and stormed out. It's the fastest time I ever heard 300 people go from cheering to completely silent. For additional context, this was probably about a month or two after 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow.
So,
You don't like them.
yep, and a novel experience. Kid that, and don't get me wrong, I could be edgy. I would definitely say things. I was labeled as a terrorist, but basically, I went around and I made videos for one of our blocks, one of classes, and for one of the intros, I put it to the tune of "I would walk 500 miles." It was just me walking around the school, and since there was a dude with a camera behind me, other folks started following me. I think at one point I had like 50 or 60 people just walking behind me. Why? Who knows? There's a dude with a camera and a bunch of other folks. So they compared me to like Hitler.
Wow, because you threw a match. They call
Well,
down, don't they?
Well, they couldn't. Well, actually, I found out through my brother recently that apparently they created a false police report to the local police station because they were telling the team to handle this. So they basically told them that, yeah, well, he's basically a terrorist. I'm like, oh, I found this out through the grapevine through a source that apparently was close to the situation. Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I still am a terrible human being. Were there additional factors? Sure, but politically, well, you had a town that was known for its wrestling team for having one of the higher rank, we'll say, wrestlers his senior year, all of a sudden just get up, basically throw a match, and give your entire coaching staff a two-fingered salute and telling them to F off, or at least the head coach.
That would be unsportsmanlike conduct. That would probably get school policy, get you expelled, but hardly terrorist level by far.
Well, I mean, it's not like anybody
Equivalent to killing 6 million people.
Well, Moira, you need to remember, just under 20 years ago, it's like, what could be the worst thing in the world you could be? It was a terrorist. Why? 9/11. Why? Family Guy episode 9/11. That's the thing. No, well, it was memetics that for our country, and anybody that watched that day, that was a severe traumatic emotional moment for our nation. And if all of a sudden you have somebody that just does something out there that you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. What was this? Well, here's the story. What's the story? Well, obviously he's a freaking terrorist because only a terrorist would do something horrible like, okay, now I'm being narcissistic sharing stories. But
yeah, the way they threw the word terrorist and everything around so much, it lost its pizzazz and spark.
Well, I think we're doing that with racist. I think we're doing that with racist, and that's horrible. Because if all of a sudden this is the point where I think we're at. What happens if you have somebody and they go up to somebody because they did something that, hey, maybe even is bigoted. They call them a racist, and they say, so what? They don't even push back.
No, being a racist is the worst thing you can be because, like, I mean, you can be a terrorist now, and that's just the ideology difference. Like, it just varies on what hot word is in right now that really gets them going. Whatever the media tells you to be offended by. Now, don't get me wrong. There is definitely something wrong with being a racist and being a terrorist. I'm not saying there's not. But the way the word is thrown about, oh, you don't agree with me, well, you're a terrorist. Oh, you don't agree with me, you're a racist. We weren't even talking about race. What the fuck are you talking about? You know?
Well, it's certain buzzwords that are together. Well, and I'll be straight up. And are there connections and intersects between these different things? Yes. Very often, some of the folks that might be vehemently racist, maybe they are also vehemently homophobic. Yada yada yada. That's the thing. You have all these other different things, and you know what? A lot of these are important. And you know what? Folks have the freedom to speak up about it. If somebody can disagree with it, that's fine. But I think with Justice Ginsburg and Scalia, it's like, you look at that, it's like, oh, well, they could vehemently disagree, but they didn't need to ad hom nuke each other. I don't know. That's all I got. Final words, Moira.
I want to know next time you and me are going to be live streaming.
Oh, wait, what?
Optic Racer.
Oh, we got... live streams? I don't know. Does anybody have any live stream that folks might be able to hokey pokey downwards? See, I dislike the current term when people are saying they are rating something. I dislike that context because I grew up playing WoW, and it's like, all right, what happens when you raid? Well, you raid a boss. What are you trying to do? You're trying to obliterate it and take its loot. That's the thing. Oh my god, I remember that. That was so fun. I'm not really doing anything except just standard life things, making some dinner and everything.
Well, I don't go to those cool kids popular hangout.
Oh.
If it has more than 50 people in the chat, I ain't going.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. It's like no. I like Gary.
Channel. Thank you.
Dude, I saw Gary without a beard. It was weird.
I didn't know you had one.
It's like looking at a shrimp that normally has its shrimp tendrils and then peeling the shrimp and getting ready to eat it. It's like it seems so naked. He's like missing his like bearded exoskeleton.
Oh, what the fuck?
That's probably like the most offensive thing I've probably said all day. My apologies, Gary. But these things happen. Hey, no, I appreciate that, Wookiee. I realize a lot of folks like the things, and to be fair, it's like I will start doing some more edited videos. I think I'm going to have more just entertaining videos coming out, just because to put together a video on just certain topics that just drain the soul. I like to have a little bit of banter back and forth, get some other ideas. It tends to be easier, and the amount of time that we spend here, like almost an hour and 40 minutes now, if I'm just focusing on almost nothing but a video, yeah, maybe I can put out halfway kind of decent video on this, but I also enjoy the interaction because, well, I am a narcissist, so.
This is the best way I can people it is be narcissist. You got some really strange opinions of yourself, you know that?
What?
You got some strange opinions of yourself.
Oh, well, I have a very diverse and eclectic audience because I interact with so many different communities.
Oh, it's like fine. It doesn't make you a narcissist.
I think I might be one of the chats where, especially not being a super large channel, you might have an anarcho-capitalist and an anarcho-communist in there at the same time, and they're just trying to tolerate each other.
Communist is weird.
I tend to think things tend to come full circle as I draw a heart, but.
Oh gosh.
All right, folks. But hey, we're just going to leave you that with love. But please go check out my lovely co-host here, Moira Kitty, over at Moira Kitty. Let me grab your thing. Say a few nice words to the people, Moira.
I love y'all.
Oh, isn't she adorable? As I try to learn how to type and do that. All right, bada boom. Go back over here because I do actually have live chat up sometimes when I click over. There we go. There's Moira's channel right there. But again, thank you all for joining us. Everybody, be safe, peace out, and long live the elbow bump.